What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stochastic here on the Odd Shopper channel, coming to you with another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me on this video. Goes a long way for you. That way you become apprised whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. It was a weird Tuesday. We didn't have any basketball in the association. Hopefully you got your votes in, but it is Wednesday. 14 games are on tap. Only 2 teams not in action. They'll be in action on the whole 2-game slate that we have on Thursday. What is going on with this NBA schedule? 14 games followed by 2, followed by a zillion. Whatever. It's okay. I got to keep breathing. I definitely hurt something in my stomach today because getting off a Peloton, it's difficult apparently. And I don't know. I'm a pansy. But anyway, Bet365, they're awesome. They're not pansies. They have an opportunity to give you lots of money, 150 in bet credits. In fact, when you sign up at the link below, it's in only 6 states right now. Louisiana sounds like it's going to be with you soon, but we'll keep that one on the DL, friends. Until then, it's just Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Colorado, and Iowa. If you sign up at one of those 6 states, you're going to get 150 bet credits when you bet just $5 at the link below. If you're 21 and over, 18 and over in Kentucky. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. But so much to get to here on today's slate. Not even going to mince words here at the top. Producer Jacob, hi. Hello, friend. That's it. Let's get to the picks. We begin our boarding walk here with the Washington Wizards, and they are fucking terrible. Taking on the Charlotte Hornets, and oh my dear sweet God. Wasn't it nice to upgrade that 11.5 from Philly into the lock section? Again, this is why you want to follow me at Eric Lindquist over on X. I'm hopefully giving you the goodness over there on a day in, day out basis. And Nikola Jokic, yay, triple-double. Upgraded lock here as well when we went to Philly. Thought about locking this one, but I think we're going to just show a little bit of trepidation here in the early going, mainly because I have some plays that I really, really like coming up a little bit later. And there's 14 games, so we don't have to force absolutely everything to be 1-unit plays, 1.5-unit plays. But if you really wanted to upgrade this one, I can't really blame you based on what we've seen from Washington. They are on pace for some historically bad defense. Considering it was a day off, I was able to do a lot more digging than normal into a lot of these plays. And Washington, while they're 27th in adjusted defensive rating, you have Indy, San Antonio, and Utah somehow worse than them. You got Washington playing first in pace, 106.8 possessions per 48. So what happens, more possessions when you suck at defense and you suck at offense, you get wider range of outcomes. And that's where this one's a little bit confusing to me because Charlotte, while they're not the most stalwart basketball team that we've ever seen in our entire lives, they're 2-4. They're 25th in adjusted defense or in adjusted net rating, but 20th in adjusted defensive rating. While the offense has been dead last in basketball, according to pretty much every single metric, that of like Portland and Washington and Detroit level bad offense, I still think this is a spot where you're getting quite a bit of value here. Charlotte at home, you're looking at 2.5, 3 points kind of being what you get when you're talking about home splits. When you start talking about like in football, you're looking at kind of 3 points. It's about the same here in the NBA streets as well for the home court advantage. But I think what you're going to have is Miller playing better. You're going to have Ball playing better. You're going to have a lot of these guys just continuing to play better throughout the season. I don't feel that way about Washington. Jordan Poole is not good. Can we just admit that Jordan Poole is, well, everybody already knows that. That's not admitting to anything you don't know. Kyle Kuzma, feel bad for him. Hopefully he can find his way out of here. And Daniel Gafford showed an amenable effort in the first half against Joel Embiid until the third quarter where he scored 29 on his ass. So that's cool. He stopped blocking stuff again. 5 blocks I think he had in the first half, followed by 0 in that third quarter against Embiid. Guy goes 9 for 9 from the field. Absurd stuff that we saw in that game. But I digress. In this one, pretty straightforward. Charlotte minus 2.5. I like it. It's a half-unit play at this kind of a number. Things are starting to settle in because we've had this number for a while. So you want to jump over there before it turns to 3, 3.5. I wouldn't really like it at those kind of splits. I said we had other things we would like, and oh my God, do I like this. The Utah Jazz taking on the Indiana Pacers, and the Indiana Pacers provide that pace, about that pace, no treble. They are second in the NBA in pure pace, 103.7 possessions per 48 minutes. They are 8th in adjusted offensive rating, but I'm very confused by something because last game, we liked Lauri Markkanen, 23.5 points, did we not? Yes, we absolutely did. What did he do? He goes 8 for 15 from the field, 5 for 12 from three, which again, shooting 42% from the field. It's kind of break even on what I expect from Lauri Markkanen. 29 points, all the usage. And Jordan Clarkson, we're starting to see finally fit into the system of the offense and not just be out there chucking. He went 3 for 14, 1 for 8 from three. Again, he's not a good shooter. He's a volume shooter. And now that he's on a team that's starting to get better. Again, John Collins, maybe you just needed a change of scenery, like what we've seen from him in the early going of this year. Too bad they screwed up the Agbaji pick, because that could have been something else. Walker Kessler, he's questionable for this one. Again, that's why this is kind of a middled spread to a certain extent. I don't think Walker Kessler is worth more than a point on either direction, although Lauri Markkanen, he would be pressed into more 5 duty. Kelly Olynyk would be a piece you really want to get a hold of in DFS streets, but this is a guy that I've just routinely believed was undervalued in the point streets, and now 23.5 is his points prop in the fastest or second fastest paced team in the NBA on the other side of it. Tyrese Halliburton, we know what he's going to do. He's going to be out there creating, doing all of the things that he normally does. He's unbelievable to watch, but it's a perfectly healthy Indiana team. Utah does have the Kessler piece missing. Keontae George also going to be probable now for this one, but that doesn't really matter to me until we start to see those minutes elevated into, 28, 30 pretty routinely. Kind of been sitting in those mid-20s, averaging 20.4 so far this season, although it's been upgraded to around 27, 21 here in recent games. I don't understand this. His usage is going to be the highest on this basketball team. It's a fast-paced matchup with lots of possessions, and that creates opportunity to smash a line. 23.5 is not the correct number here. It should be 26.5 at minus 110. And instead, you are looking at 3 points difference, paying just a tiny bit more juice. And I am just happy with that. Lock it up. Lauri Markkanen over 23.5 points. It's kind of that early season trend that I have where you kind of tend to go back to some similar plays here in the early going until numbers really start to correct for some of the differences you see. This is the go-to player. And unless Keontae George is going to play 28, 30 minutes tonight, he's not. Unless you have other guys like Jordan Clarkson who are going to chuck 20 times a night. Hopefully he doesn't. You got Lauri Markkanen here as phenomenal value. Perhaps the best real-life basketball game we have on the slate. Boston, 2-2-2. That's wild to look at. Next to Philly. 6-0-0 against the spread. Coming off of the lock they had on Friday. Locks now 10-7 on the season here up in the corner. That's lovely. Actually 10-6 depending on how you look at it, because there was a half unit spread and it was one of those, I called it a like-ish lock. Fuck me, right? Anyway, we're looking at Boston here on one side. Really like what we've seen from them. They lose in overtime to Minnesota. Minnesota, the giant killers, like Denver and Boston. First losses of the season in Minnesota. I don't know what to believe. Just don't get your hopes up, Minnesota fans. Anthony Edwards, when he gets in that zone, auto zone, it's fun. Unlike that commercial. Anyway, this is a phenomenal real-life basketball game, but a terrible game to bet. And I'm looking across the board. I thought maybe Tyrese Maxey points plus assists looked decent enough. Thought about shorting Joel Embiid. And then whenever you think about shorting Joel Embiid, you just kind of close the computer. You just kind of close the computer. Because you know what? It's bad. You shouldn't do that. Well, actually, you should when the numbers are appropriate. You could short or long anybody based on what the numbers are. I hope you know that by now. It's not about what you think is going to happen most of the time. Now, I think the Boston's going to win -2, but I think this is a pretty appropriate number, -130. I'm not going to back them on the money line. I'm not going to back them giving up 2 in Philadelphia here based on what I've seen. Philly, I don't really think that I've valued them correctly this season. Kelly Oubre, I like in this starting unit. I think he's looked pretty good with them until last game, and they didn't really need it against Washington. So goes from scoring 25 to 3. That was wild to see. But anywho, yeah, Boston -2, lean. I don't know. Kristaps Porzingis ended up playing last game. He should be just fine here. Derek White is upgraded to questionable here in this one. Probably going to be probable. Probably going to play basketball. A full-strength Boston team, I think that's just fine. To the internal battle that I've been having the last couple days, the Clippers, the Brooklyn Nets. Again, I don't quite understand this because Brooklyn 6-0-1 against the spread. My dear sweet God. They've been doing some insane things. Now, it hasn't shown up necessarily in the record the same way. They're 3-4. They're 0-3 at home, which is pretty wild to look at as well. I don't really look at home road splits all that much, if I'm being honest. It's more matchup based, and yeah, I'll basically take in like a couple points and try to factor it in for the home court here and there. But again, Brooklyn 0-3, better record on the road. That's a small sample size thing. We don't need to overreact to that. But you want to talk about a small sample size thing? You want to talk about the things that I do on days off, or like quote unquote days off, even though I'm recording this on Tuesday night. I want to talk about one guy and one guy only. He's the person that we have to discuss the most. It's Cam Thomas. What the flying F is going on? I've said the F word enough here today. My parents would not be I'm a good-natured Midwest boy. What am I doing? Oh, I'm being fucking pissed because Cam Thomas is out of control here right now, and he needs to be stopped somehow, some way. 33 shot attempts against Milwaukee, 41 minutes, 45 points. What am I even looking at right now? Let's break it down because this gets even dumber as you go through some of his splits. He is shooting. He is scoring in the 96th percentile. Again, he's averaging 29.1 here, but he is absolutely out of control from 2-point range right now. He's out of control from 3-point range right now. He's 67.6% of his shots coming at the rim, and he's just absolutely smashing. 58.8% three-pointers on the assisted three-pointers. I mean, there's guys knocking down shots around him, so it's creating extra opportunity for him. I'm just floored by everything I'm looking at. And here's the thing. He's still a below-average effective field goal percentage player. 53.7%. You go back to 2023, 49.7%. That was in the 20th percentile in the NBA. You go back to 2022, 48% effective field goal percentage. That was the 20th percentile in the NBA. You get my drift? This is an uncomfortable spot to be looking at Cam Thomas. Now, he's 6'5", which I didn't really notice until they said that. He doesn't look 6'5" on the floor. He's 6'5", 210, and that is a pretty wild fact. He's able to elevate over a lot of guys more than what I was anticipating in the back of my head, thinking Cam Thomas watching the first couple games. I guess he's got a little bit more size and length, but this is going to tone down. He's not going to have a 30.6% usage for the rest of this season. I just refuse to believe that that's going to be the case. And part of this is he's inserted into the starting lineup. They've been going small. They moved Ben Simmons to the center spot, starting at the 5 with Nicholas Claxton out, who's already officially out for this one. And considering Zubats is the only center there, Mason Plumlee going to be out for this one, I think that iteration of a lineup has a lot of chance to be on the floor. I'm scared that Cam Thomas is still going to play 36, 38 minutes in this spot. And that's the only reason I haven't pulled the trigger on it, but I can't emphasize this enough. He is not going to be a guy who averages 30 points a game. He's just not. But at 26.5, I thought about shorting it. I'm going to call it a lean for right now. I really want to pull the trigger on this. I'm hoping this is a guy that the public wants to move to 27.5 at some point tomorrow. If he does, jump on it. If he doesn't, I'm happy to pass on it. But I just want to at least point out that this is a guy on my radar that we want to be shorting sooner rather than later. Maybe we have to wait till Claxton's back, until they have to make decisions about who's going to start in that guard lineup. But right now, with Cam Thomas starting, it's a little bit of a terrified fate. That was a lot of talk for a lean. I'm going to give you a little bit of saved time here for a like. We got the Spurs. We got the Knicks. Let's start with the Knicks side. Thanks, Julius Randle, for having your first good shooting game when I short you. Now, it was still a profitable Friday. Overall, not just in the premium Discord where some people are like, hey, you know, that's where you put all your good picks. No, I put all my picks that I have now, and then I put all the picks that I have later. Does that make sense? It's not valuation. It's not me withholding information. It's not me doing any of that. I talk you through every ins and outs. And then I have Lindy's Locks update over on my X/Twitter at Eric Lindquist. You can go follow me there. Hopefully giving you great updated information here every single Monday through Friday. Saturday, Sunday, those are for the boys / for my dog and wife because I don't want to get divorced. But anyway, San Antonio, we really like their side of things because, well, they're not the perfectly healthy team. Now with RJ Barrett in the Knicks rotation, everything looks efficient across the board. That is a trend that I hope you're picking up on. It's so easy to go out and project what you believe the baseline is going to be, and it's always going to be pretty darn close. Although 25.5 is a pretty big number here on Mr. Jalen Brunson. If you're looking at a fade there, that one might feel a little bit better for me than a Cam Thomas based on, you don't want your guy, Jalen Brunson, playing 38, 40 a minute. So a night, like, the Nets don't really give a shit about Cam Thomas, if we're being honest. I know that might upset some of you to hear. Just saying. If he keeps knocking down 70% of his 2-point attempts and, like, whatever. But again, his effective field goal percentage, this is absolute ridiculousness. Let's talk about San Antonio. 9.5-point dogs here. That's a big number. Thought about making them my lean here, but then a play kind of jumped up to the top for me as I was breaking down players, and once you know it, it just happens to be the guy that we all want to talk about when it's San Antonio. It's Victor Wembanyama. He's awfully good at the old basketball, wouldn't you say? Yeah, I'm not really breaking anything down that's brand new to you. But he has an 8.4% block percentage. That is the 99th percentile in basketball. Him, Chet Holmgren, Anthony Davis, they're all doing dumb things in the block categories. But he brings a 1.9% steal percentage, which doesn't sound like a lot. But that's 67th percentile in all of basketball. Why does this matter? Well, you can get plus money on the combination of the two. And when you combine the two and you grade it out, if you're going to be averaging somewhere around 0.6 steals, but you're going to be somewhere around 3 blocks. Now, I don't know if 3 ends up being the number. I'm getting plus money, though, on the combination that grades out above 3.5, and that's a positive EV bet. That's kind of the skinny of it. It's a bet that doesn't hit more than 50% of the time, or like just maybe 51, 52% of the time, but you're getting plus 120 at BetMGM. If we're talking about flipping coins that are 50-50 over and over and over again, and I'm giving you $1.20 next to the dollar that you're giving me, you take that every single time, right? Cool. Glad we talked a little math for this one. Plus 120 on this is not correct. 3.5 blocks plus steals. Not a lock. But we like Victor Wembanyama to go over this number. I do get a little bit worried. Julius Randle. Well, no, I don't. He will stuff Julius Randle's face in. That'll be fun. Numbers that are getting a little bit more efficient here on the Phoenix side. We've got Bradley Beal questionable. The first time he's been questionable since that season opener when they said, hey, he's probably going to play. And then he was out for a week and a half. Still pissed. Anyway, Devin Booker's going to be out. He's important. Kevin Durant probably going to have a lot of usage, especially if Bradley Beal sits again here. Going to be all Kevin Durant. Would probably be looking at 30, 35 points. Maybe you want to jump on that a little bit early, and maybe Bradley Beal just sits out one more time, throwing it out there. But the Bulls, they're starting to figure out what their identity is going to be going forward. You got to get Patrick Williams off the floor to some extent. They're 3-5. You got to get Kobe White off the floor a little bit more. Why are we doing this, guys? Alex Caruso, he's going to be probable for this one. Hopefully we can find some more minutes for the defensive stalwart. Torrey Craig out there playing massive minutes now, 27 2 games ago. God, it's just a gross Chicago Bulls team. Blow it up. Anyway, plus 1.5. I don't really like this game. Didn't really find any props that were all that suiting. Again, you have a Chicago team that's quite healthy. Some interesting rotations, hard to go out and project everything there. And Phoenix, we've seen so many iterations of this team in the absence of Devin Booker, in the absence of Bradley Beal. Getting Bradley Beal in, I still don't think you're going to be able to get to some of those props because they're not out right now. And by the time they come out, you're going to know Bradley Beal's status. So have fun with that. Have fun with this one, friends. Bet 5, get 150 in bonus bets if you're in one of these 6 states: Kentucky, Virginia, Ohio, New Jersey, Iowa, and Colorado. Had to think about that for a second. Bet 5, get 150 in bonus bets at the link below, or up to $1,000 in bonus bets coming back your way when you fire up to $1,000. However much you put in, you'll get it back in bonus bets if it doesn't hit. That seems like a pretty great deal too, but also you can also bet $5 and get 150 in bonus bets in one of those 6 states. So I would check that out if I were you, in one of those 6 states, of course. Only if you're 21 and over, 18 and over in Kentucky. And if you have a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Back to the picks we go. One of the more disappointing things of Friday night for me was there were a lot of parlays that I saw from people in the premium Discord. And while I'm not parlaying all my picks, I'm always aware and very cognizant or conscious. One of the two. I don't know. This isn't a grammatical program. Although I try to think that I have an above average diction. Above average diction. Above average. Anyway, one of the more disappointing parts of that evening was the Lakers, the Clippers, both of them Ended up finding the L column there at even money. I thought they were both pretty decent investments at those kind of numbers. And again, Julius Randle found his first game in forever. And Anthony Davis, his dick, you don't even need the shin at the end. He ended up getting hurt there in the groin nether regions and had to leave the floor like 48 times and didn't play nearly as many minutes. And Bam Adebayo feasted upon the corpse of the Lakers to the tune of like the most insane triple-double that I've seen from a guy in a while. Although I love seeing Bam Adebayo. I love seeing the Heat play through him because he has that passing pedigree. He does. It's just that when they added Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler being bolt-on, and then they didn't ask him to do it anymore. But it's always been there. Nice to see him do it, although not good for me because we ended up losing by 1, and I am sad and in shambles. But we're going to make that money back right here by betting against the Lakers. Anthony Davis ends up being questionable for this one. I don't know what to make of it. I think it's probably closer that Anthony Davis is in than out. He did say that he was going to be in, but Anthony Davis is notoriously a hurt little dude. And yeah, I love him. I love Anthony Davis. I think it's a little bit overhyped because when you get completely backhanded the way that he does week in, week out, day in, day out, you're probably going to fall down and get whacked around a little bit too. He's too athletic. It's almost like it's better to be Jokic sometimes where your feet stay closer to the ground. You don't have to elevate and get yourself in situations where you're going to get hurt repeatedly. Whereas Anthony Davis, you know, you can block every shot. He leads the NBA in blocks yet again here so far this season. That's not going to be something that shocks you. But in the event that he ends up sitting, awesome. In the event that he ends up playing, I still just want to talk about Houston, how impressed I am with Ime Udoka. Boston fans, that would have been a fun coach to have last year, right? Oh, sorry, producer Jacob, my bad. Sucks. Just be a better person, right? Isn't that the moral of the story? No, it's not the moral of the story. He never should have been fired in a million years. But that's just one man's opinion. You definitely are looking at him allowing Alperen Şengün to control a lot of this offense. And I love the high lows. I love Alperen Şengün's ability to create. And in fact, first double-double he had in terms of passing, in terms of assists here so far this season. Love to see him playing at the top of the key, creating for a lot of other guys, and seeing 17, 12, and 8 in 26 minutes, torching Sacramento and Domantas Sabonis' soul for a second straight night was pretty impressive to go back and watch. And yeah, I went back and watched it because I just really like what Houston's put together in a short time. They're not going to be good. They're not going to be in the top tier of the West. It's just not going to happen. They're 3-3. Their adjusted net rating so far is 24th in the NBA. They're going to play super slow though, and they're going to make people work for it on the defensive end with every piece not named Alperen Şengün because he's not good at guarding anybody. It just is what it is. Very excited to watch this matchup and think Houston is a very, very live dog. The Lakers bench is just non-existent. Sounds like they're going to get a little bit of help back. Rui Hachimura is probable for this one after the concussion, after a lot of the issues that he had. Taurean Prince came back into the starting lineup last time, but Austin Reeves, a lot of what he did last time, looking fantastic, by the way, was a product of Anthony Davis being off the floor more than he should have been. I think that's kind of the issue that they run into. I think they need Austin Reeves working a lot with that second unit because they have no ammunition coming off the bench. Houston money line, they've got pieces just about everywhere. They're not going to be good, though. I just want to throw it out there. I don't think there's any team that I've gotten more hate from people on Twitter based on what I feel about them in the early going of the season than Miami Heat fans, which is wild to say because I didn't know you existed until LeBron James showed up there. What, were you cheering for Glenn Rice and Alonzo Mourning back in the heyday? Were you? No, you were out partying, doing coke with your boys. Like, stop it. Stop it. Just kidding. I love you guys. I think Miami's fantastic in the humidity. It's just fine. It's not unbearable. Cuban ladies are lovely. Anyway, we have Miami. We have Memphis. And this is the battle of who could care less, as Ben Folds would say. You got the 1-6 against the spread Miami Heat, the 2-5 Memphis Grizzlies. And from a real life perspective, 3-4 Miami is 1-6. Congratulations, Grizzlies. You brought in Bismack Biyombo to be in your starting lineup, and it ended up working out for you. You got Xavier Tillman, who's already been ruled out here for tomorrow, going to be day-to-day going forward. So glad it's not like a big apocalyptic thing, but the apocalyptic thing has been, of late, looking at a specific spot, which is like no John Morant. But anyway, you want to get caring about this basketball game? Because here's where it comes. Miami fans, I'm sorry that you don't like that I don't like your basketball team. I love Bam Adebayo. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA. Jimmy Butler, I think, is a cool dude who has a lot of interesting interests like country music and, being frugal and hanging out with ESPN reporters in a bubble. There are so many great things about the Miami Heat that I just can't tell you enough about, but I can't possibly fade Memphis here at this spot at even money. We're talking about a team that is drastically underperformed relative to expectations in the early going of the season. But Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. were always going to be those dudes. There are two of the best players in the NBA under 25 years old. I would put them, I would rather start my team with SGA and with Chet Holmgren right now. But Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. are more established right now as a duo. Chet, he's going to be there very, very shortly. But this is a team that I think is they're going to play better. They have to play better. They're just better constructed than what Miami is, having to have Tyler Hero be a volume scorer, having no ammunition off the bench. You still have Caleb Martin, who's dinged up here. Kyle Lowry has no usage or ability at this point in time. Josh Richardson has drastically underperformed expectations, shooting 27% from three, 37% from the field. What are we doing here? This is a lock. Memphis, another lock on the board. Yeah. I've got 3 of them on today's slate. Yeah, 2 player props and this one for you. Memphis money line absolutely gets it done against Miami. Love what we saw out of Bam, but I would definitely call that an outlier. All right, this is a lean, but this at least needs to be broken down a little bit more in depth because I want to talk you through the difference of Drew Holiday on a Milwaukee Bucks team as opposed to Damian Lillard on a Milwaukee Bucks team. It is fascinating. And anybody who's a Celtics fan, you should be jumping for joy because I think this worked out about as perfectly as you could have asked for. Getting Porzingis surrounded around with Drew and having that be your construction and still playing through Tatum, having Jaylen Brown be an alpha too, that is a better construction for your basketball team, for your needs, than getting a Damian Lillard. And I will stand by that from now until the end of time. Now, Milwaukee, a way more exciting team with Damian Lillard, and I would call them a better team as a result of getting Dame as opposed to having Drew. I think that's going to be what we see eventually bear out. But right now, they've been a publicly backed team, 1-4-1 against the spread. I don't think that is any coincidence. It's going to take a little bit of time, and when you see a 12.5 here, you just run for the hills. I have no interest in backing this, but I want to talk about specific players that we could maybe back in terms of a 3-point ladder here because you go back to 2023. One of the best teams in the NBA defensively in just about every single category were the Milwaukee Bucks. They were first in adjusted net rating behind just about every single, well, hang on, that's not correct. 4th in adjusted defensive rating. That is what I was looking at there on my sheet because I was going to say Boston has the better adjusted net rating. There was no doubt in my mind that was incorrect. But first in holding teams to a 52% expected field goal percentage were the Milwaukee Bucks. They were 8th in terms of 3-point percentage allowed over the course of that season, 35.4%, which is not very good. And that speaks to having Chris Middleton playing more minutes and Drew Holiday being your guard. Let's fast forward to this season. Milwaukee, they are down to 21st in the NBA. Team shooting nearly 2.5% better from 3 against them this season. And then also giving much more points and an overall effective field goal percentage in the mid-range. 47.8% they're giving up to opposing teams from the mid-range. That is the 4th worst mark in all of basketball. Teams like Washington and Utah are above them. That's not good company to have surrounding you, especially when you're a noted team that has a Brook Lopez, who's been one of the most improved defenders over the course of any 4 or 5 year sample size that I've ever seen. Going back quite a ways, he's been an amazing elite defender for a while, but you can't put him in a blender in the pick and roll, but you can do it to Dame, and teams are going to do it routinely. Now, they're also allowing 41.7% of the defensive team's shot distribution to come from 3. That is 22nd in basketball. We want teams taking less threes against you. That's generally how it works in the modern NBA. Well, it depends who you're playing, of course, but that creates an opportunity for somebody who's a good three-point shooter to come out and torch you. Now, it's been a small sample size, just like I'm not going to go crazy over Chet Holmgren shooting infinity % from three yet, because it's going to stabilize. But Marcus Sasser is a bucket. This guy, he's a little bit undersized. Otherwise, I would be kind of in love with his profile for the Detroit Pistons. I'm in love with it for Wednesday because you have Jaden Ivey out, Alec Burks out. He's going to create some minutes coming off the bench, and we've seen him already play 30 and 33, even in the bench role the last two. Last game, he goes 1 for 5 from three. Oh, contraire, friends, though. He's shooting 52% from three, 14 for 27 so far this season, shooting 53% from the floor. And now he gets Damian Lillard, who is giving up far more mid-range and long-range type jump shots. See where I'm going here? Even in a bad game script where it gets wonky, 12.5, it's not like they're protecting a rookie in Marcus Sasser here. I think he's pretty immune to the blowout. And it makes me very interested in laddering his three-pointers up to 4. I want to see where this line opens at because it's not officially available here yet. That's because we have lots of pieces here. Our guy Jalen Duren going to be questionable entering this one after getting scratched out of the middle of nowhere 20 minutes before that game locked the other night. But Marcus Sasser, have him on your radar. Check out where the threes are, and I'm going to try to ladder it because Damian Lillard is going to give up some massive games to some point guards on the other end. Not a huge matchup guy, but I'm a huge matchup guy when it's somebody that's obviously targetable. We just talked about laddering Sasser up in threes. Let's talk about somebody going down in threes. The New Orleans Pelicans going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And one of the nice things about a day off, so to speak, or having more time like today, is you go through the data a little bit more fine-tuned. And what happens after somebody puts up 38 in an overtime game or just goes completely nuclear, like an Anthony Edwards, is you see them overvalued ever so slightly the next day. And seeing 2.5 threes for Anthony Edwards right out of the gate as the line with plus money coming in on the under made me very, very interested. Hasn't hit the over of that game in the last 3, including that Boston game that we were looking at last time out. So why are we getting this kind of value? Well, he hit it, the over of it, in the first 3 games of this season, 38, 33, 38 minutes, goes 4 for 7, 3 for 5, 5 for 8. Again, this is a small sample size thing, but I'm just projecting out what he's going to do specifically going forward here at home and against a Pelicans team. And, well, one hiccup showed up here along the way. New Orleans, first in the entire NBA guarding the three-point line. 30.4% is the average that teams are shooting against them from 3. Dead last in the NBA. It's pretty easy to see why. Herbert Jones, who? Very good. Brandon Ingram, long wingspan. Zion Williamson, not your prototypical 5 by any means here. Jonas Valanciunas, obviously the 5, and then Larry Nance comes in, small ball 5. They're very good at defending the three-point line. Even Jordan Hawkins dance in his khaki pants. There's nothing better. He goes completely berserk against Denver. He's the guy who ends up starting, not Dyson Daniels, in the absence of CJ McCollum, who we all hope gets healthy here quick. Kind of a freaky deal. Anyway, under 2.5. Anthony Edwards. We just short a guy who just went completely ballistic last game, getting these kind of prices. It just makes it an easy click. It's really as simple as that. I love my Minnesota Timberwolves. I think Anthony Edwards could have a great game here, irregardless. But irregardless, I hate that word. Why did I say that? Ugh, it's redundant. Just take the under of Anthony Edwards threes. That's it. I don't know what to do with this basketball game. The Cleveland, I almost said Guardians. Isn't that wild? Lindy's leading likes in MLB. We'll see you guys at the end of March next year. It's going to be a second. The Cavaliers, though, they're playing basketball. The game of basketball, the only one that I'm breaking down here on Wednesday. They're going to be taking on OKC, and we know OKC, they are going to up that pace like nobody's business. They got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming back. Nice to be able to recognize he was going to be questionable. Was able to take advantage of a little bit of that kind of stuff. Try to be reading those tea leaves. When somebody gets upgraded to questionable out of the middle of nowhere in the morning and they go through shoot around, they're playing basketball. 4-3 now on the season, Oklahoma City, a young team that continues to impress in terms of advanced analytics. They completely play up in pace, and they've had a pretty tough strength of schedule so far. Top 10 most difficult, 9th in adjusted strength of schedule here, according to Dunks and Threes, of course. So looking at OKC, 5-2 against the spread, that's even more impressive. Thought about making them the back here as the lean, because I don't really know what to do with this game as I play it out. But I think the under of 230.5 is a slightly better play if you have to have something here. Again, Jared Allen back into the mix. We got to see those minutes start to ramp up. He played 21, then 28, 32, 34 minutes of Jared Allen. That's very, very interesting for the under of this one. Kind of want to pull the trigger, but I haven't done it yet. We got 3 games to go. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell as we get to your third lock of the night. If you're in the premium Discord, or if you're following me on Twitter at X, I bet you have a feeling where we're going with this one because he's been the absolute nuke whale play of the night a couple of times. It's more of a joke around thing. Again, the whole idea of locks, it's just to give you a confidence valuation of how I perceive the plays at that point in time. As I record this right now, it's not to look ahead and say, hey, you should lock this if the number gets that direction, although I try to give you those kind of insights. That's what Lindy's Locks update is for. And that's where I give you the goods in real time, the people who want that 2 hours, an hour before first tip of the games. But Dennis Schroeder, God, I love him. God, I love what he has done in terms of points plus assists. Let's talk through it. Toronto, Scotty Barnes, he's starting to emerge as that frickin' dude here. He takes on a Dallas front court that is Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. You know who's not good at defense? Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. I'm just going to throw it out there. That is not what they are asked to do. They are asked to play absolutely asinine defense. Now, Kyrie Irving, he's not nearly as bad at defense as you might think. Luka is legitimately that bad. Again, we've seen years where Kyrie was interested and then years where he's not interested. But of course, he is out there to be the guy who's 98th percentile in terms of estimated plus minus on the offensive end of the floor. And he's routinely done that every single season. Yeezin? Is that like Wheezy's season? Kyrie Irving has done that every single season of his NBA career. But we're going to get back on track here and talk about the main featured item. Precious Achiuwa is questionable here for this one. Jakob Poeltl, that's a guy that is probably the most affected. It's going to have a slight trickle-down effect where you could see a couple of numbers get a little steam off, mainly because Achiuwa, he had a pretty sizable part in this rotation early on in the season. 24, 23, and 18 minutes that he had in those first 3. What it comes off of, like what his minutes are coming off of a groin injury right from the get-go, I don't know. But it doesn't matter here for Dennis Schroeder because you get the points and the assist portfolio for this one. And as I work through the numbers, it floors me every single time I look at it at how much higher I'm projecting Dennis Schroeder than pretty much anybody else in the industry. Has anybody recognized he has a 40% assist percentage through 7 games this season? That's in the top 2 percentile. We're talking 98th percentile in the entire NBA right now. He's only a 6'1", 170-pound guard out there who's not going to get rebounds, so I don't want the PRA in any way, shape, or form, but we're talking a 40% assist percentage. It's a completely different role than he's had since he was in Atlanta in 2018, where he had a 35.2% assist percentage. But then you saw Oklahoma City 2019, fought injuries, 2020. Then you saw in LA, had a down year in 2021. Then he goes to Boston on the min deal. Houston revamps himself, goes to LA, plays himself into a contract. He only had between a 20 and a 26.2% assist percentage between that entire chunk of those seasons. He's only 30 years old, which is wild because he looked 100 out there on the floor. But he has a 40% assist percentage, surrounded by decent offensive options at every point in time, and he's knocking down shots at a little bit better clip than we saw last season. Last season, 47.1% effective field goal percentage. He's up to 53.8% this season with a 57.5% true shooting percentage. It's not surprising that it's the highest of his career because Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl, it's within the flow of the offense. It's a little bit easier for him to just basically create or dish. And it's him and Scotty Barnes in a lot of these two-man games. OG Anunoby knocking down shots, and Siakam, not a distant option by any means, but like there are so many assists to be had within the framework of this offense right now. So we just fire it every single time. We've been betting this 21.5 every single night out almost for the last, 2 weeks. Welcome to the party, friends. Dennis Schroeder over 22.5 points plus assists against the Dallas front court. Yes, they play slow, but they couldn't guard you or me. There are going to be points up in this one. 224.5, a little bit higher for a total you'd expect than Toronto and Dallas. Lock button. Kind of a quick piece of analysis here. Golden State Warriors taking on the Denver Nuggets. How about Jokic there for the lock category for everybody? Got a little bit trepidatious as I saw the numbers come down, cavered from plus 150 to plus 125 at a lot of books. Closed around plus 135, but happy to get that lock through. Again, I have a strong sensitivity to the numbers as we get closer to lock, but Jokic comes through for the video. For everybody in the premium Discord, yay, celebrate. And Philadelphia, of course, too, on Friday. Let's not talk about Austin Eckler dropping passes on Monday, though, or I'll cry. Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors, who, Draymond Green, really important to the defensive schematics here of this team, but it's not really happening right now, and I think there's a couple of reasons why. One, Draymond Green, not exactly the youngest tool in the shed, if we're getting at it, and I emphasize tool because, I don't know. There's a lot of NBA players who like him. I kind of like him as an analyst. It's kind of hard not to. He's very intelligent with the game, and I know that Steve Kerr talks about that all the time. How, Draymond Green, one of the smartest guys I know. He's almost 34 years old, though. We know Steph Curry, he's 35, 36 now. I got to double check my work. It's 35 on the number. I'm just saying, this is not a young basketball team, and Steph Curry, he's defying everything. I understand modern science and, being smart. There's a lot of things that kind of are in play for that, but I think a lot of this, even in the absence of Jordan Poole, is at Golden State. They're not playing at the kind of pace you would expect, but with this adjusted defensive rating still being below average and the fact that they've had a pretty easy strength of schedule to start off this season, 22nd in adjusted strength of schedule, Denver is going to be a rude awakening here. And I think there are going to be points to be had in gobs on both sides. I think Reggie Jackson is just playing over his head right now. I think Jokic is absolutely out of control. And I think this is just going to be a spot where, if Aaron Gordon's going to be a Draymond Green or Kevin Love, it doesn't make any sense to me. There's going to be so much scoring to be had if teams shoot remotely competent or remotely close to their baselines here in this one. I like the over of 227.5. I find this to be about 4 points too low. Nothing that's going to be in a lock category, but we've actually been profitable on totals after a terrible MLB season in terms of totals. Just going to be completely honest about that one. Nice to kind of see. I know it's a different sport, completely different metrics that go into it, but starting to feel a little bit more trigger happy here on the old totals. Over 227.5. I like it. And the last game of the night here, Portland and Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox already announced out for this one. That's cool. Scoot Henderson already ruled out for this one. It's probably good for Portland. I said that again, yeah. You want to develop Scoot. He's going to be good, but right now he is not ready to play basketball. It was wild to watch his first couple outings. Really disappointing based off of what I saw in Summer League, at least in the preseason. But you know what? That's not real life basketball. Regular season, playoff basketball. Either of those things. A little bit different than Summer League and G League and all of that shit. So we leave that in the past. But you're looking at Malcolm Brogdon going to be starting here more than likely. Again, you're looking at Malik Monk minutes. I'm very confused why he just played 15 minutes against Houston last time out. Just seems like Sacramento's been a little disinterested, which is a hard thing to really have metrics for. Like, how do I talk about disinterested stuff? They go back to the beam, though. Oh, fire up the beam. I don't know. They've been really bad, though. 22nd in adjusted net rating. 24th in adjusted defensive rating. It's just not a very good basketball team. And Malcolm Brogdon, when healthy, he's a basketball player. I know, Boston, you had to do what you did. No complaints. You do it a million times out of a million. You have the portfolio completely set up. You always want to have your team based around the guys who are playing the most minutes for you. And if Malcolm Brogdon isn't going to crack the rotation routinely, ship him off somewhere else. But Malcolm Brogdon is a basketball player. He has now played 44 and 39 minutes the last two, 24, 10 and 7, 18, 11 and 7, shooting the ball terrible too in the meanwhile. He's going to have better stat lines than that coming up very, very shortly, which is a terrifying thing to say. Sacramento better be ready. I thought about betting Malcolm Brogdon for a triple-double here. Yeah, you heard me correctly. I thought about betting Malcolm Brogdon for a triple-double. Think about that shit, my friends. But we're going to just lean Portland plus 8.5. It's inside of minus 110 at FanDuel right now. But even though we called Portland money line from the clouds the other night against Memphis on the first end of that, did not bet it the second time around, thank God. Plus 8.5 feels a little trappy. Let's look at Brogdon props and probably move on from here. And that does it for another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. You know what to do. Go to that comment section below. Let me know your favorite plays that exist here on the board for this slate. Going to be a wild one. That is for sure. 14 games, lots of moving parts. Sure, there's going to be injury stuff that we can't possibly break down here the night before, but that is why, and again, I don't even have to do it. I do it out of the goodness of my heart and the fact that I really care about getting you guys updated and good information. I will have the Lindy's Locks update posted, and I feel a lot better, even though I tore something in my tummy. I don't know what the shit that is. Right after coming off being sick. Good jobs. Way to go, Eric. But yeah, I'm going to be doing that over on my X at Eric Lindquist. Just my name. Find me over there. Follow me. I will give you updated information on those locks. I will let you know everything that changes, if anything gets upgraded to one or anything gets downgraded from a lock. Those are the ones I cover. Every other play you can get in the premium Discord at stokastic.com/Lindy. It's in the link below. Thank you, producer Jacob. Per usual, you got to get the heck up out of here. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NBA streets on Wednesday.